Thanks very much for joining me, Zach. So I wanted, if I could, you've been a member of the VetX community for just over a year, and I wanted just to ask you about your experience of it, and probably take you back to before you joined. How did you come to be aware of it? And I know this is a conversation that happens between employers and team members, and often it's employers who work out that this thing exists first. So just take us back in time and to, first awareness, like what made you think, yeah, this might be a good idea. This is something I could get something out of.
Yeah, so I found out about it through your podcast because I'd come across that on the interwebs. And yeah, so I found out about it, looked into it a little bit, read all the stuff, and then went to my boss and said, "Hey, there's this cool thing, and I think you should pay for it." And
you badgered him. I didn't know that.
And then he also came across it from a webinar through people he knew, and so we were both interested in it, and then it just worked out from there.
I did not know that you had heard about it through the podcast, so that's nice to hear. Someone listens to it. That's nice. And when you heard about it, so paint a picture for us about what your career was at that time. What were the challenges you were facing? What things did you hope that being a member of the VetX community would help you with?
So I think I was a year and a half, 2 years out or something like that, and I'd been practicing well, doing quite well at practice, but I think I saw that the challenges in practice weren't about, could you diagnose X condition in X amount of time, spending X amount of money. It's all about the relationships with staff and your support staff and things like that. And that's what I wanted to develop, but, I couldn't find anything that was going to develop that. So this came along and it filled that gap.
It ticked the boxes. So, I would say the class is sort of really divided into, there's 4 sort of areas that in my head anyway. So we've got the sections where we talk about setting objectives and really getting focused on goals. And then there's several sessions on mindset and getting your mindset. And then we've got what I call the toolbox and the actual skill sets to practice. And then there's the wrapper of accountability through the Facebook group and through the community, the peer network. Was there a part of it to you that was more useful than anything else, and if maybe an easier question is how did it broadly come together for you, and what was your experience?
I think the big thing that attracted me was the accountability part of it, but linking that accountability with the goals as well. So the regular mentor check-ins really were the big draw for me. The toolbox, if you don't have access to those tools, unfortunately, a lot of the tools, I'd gone to those CE sessions and I looked at those things for myself, but having those tools all in one place was really helpful. But having the goals and then having other people who you could share those goals with was really the big part of it that kind of drew me in.
Yeah, right. So the actual one-on-one, or the group calls where you get that one-on-one with the mentors was a draw card.
Yeah, definitely.
And were you able to plot, so you had ambitions, and we'll maybe come on to what you're doing now in a second, because that's very cool. I feel a little bit like it's, and you see Celebrity Love Island and the couple actually go and get married. I feel like you're like one of the first wins in the VetX community to go do what you did next. So we'll come on to that in a little second.
I'm going to watch Love Island, I think.
For the record, I've never watched Love Island, so
that's not what you're saying.
I was going to say blind date, but I thought maybe that wasn't a thing in Australia, and I was definitely going to date myself to Cilla Black at that point. So you just have to Google that and just then
we can move on.
You're going to carbon date myself right there. So impacts. What were the things that you already had been in a place where you'd been exposed to some of the information in any case, but in terms of impacts, was there anything that light bulb moments for you where you thought, that actually That's a bit of a game changer for me.
I think the having, if you're interested in setting goals and pursuing things, there's so many resources out there, but having one methodology to follow through really helps. But then also the secret equation to the art of persuasion lecture is distilled in a really, really great way that I think, makes it not only easy for people to get when they watch it, but also to share with others.
Yeah.
So when you're trying to explain why you do something to another member of your team or trying to bring someone else on board, it's in that way that makes it so that you can actually use it. And I think that was one of the big things that I keep going back to.
Has that had ongoing effects then? Are you able to get a quantum of that impact or results where you thought, when I used that structure, it once upon a time I would have had this conversation or this frustration and I wouldn't have known where to go with that. But with the secret equation to the art of persuasion particularly, there is a very clear structure. Can you tell me a bit more about how that has influenced your behavior perhaps, and then influenced others' behavior around you?
I think it's about being aware of the steps that you go through. I mean, often we're in a consult, for instance, and we're flying on autopilot, you know, and we're just doing the things that work for us because it's trial and error. But then being able to step back and say, okay, what's actually happening here? And whether you're doing that ahead of time or after the fact, I think it's just like the accountability. It's, you have what you want to do, you do it, and then did it work, and where does it fit in? And so that's kind of a microcosm of the whole thing.
Did you learn to consults in your examination process? Did you learn that? I'm curious if you learned it the same way I did, which was just watching a bunch of people as you went out and saw practice in the field. And nobody ever sort of taught me what the way was. I just saw bits and I thought, oh, that's good. I'll have some of that for there, some of that for here. And it really ebbed and flowed the whole time. Was it a similar way of learning for you?
Yeah, I think I definitely absorbed things from different people, but also in final year, our university, when we went through, was a lot of externships. So you're on the road a lot. So you see a lot of consults.
Right.
And I very quickly learned that there's some people who I wanted to learn from and some people who I maybe didn't want to learn so much from. And so I think it's, you take the things that work from those people and then you use them to explain why maybe other people don't get the outcome that they want, so you can see it's, you've seen consults, everyone's seeing consults that you think that's just never going to work. You can, whether it's the body language at the start or it's the, you're not looking at what their real concerns are or whatever it is. You can see it fall apart in front of you.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you see people getting their heads go down and they then just, that very quickly becomes, well, clients just don't want to say yes to my recommendations. Okay. So I was thinking about sort of outcome areas. So, clients are obviously a big one. The equation has helped. You are quite a personable chap. So I don't think VetX could ever claim to have suddenly, done a personality transplant. I suspect you are always quite good at chatting with clients, Zach. But despite that fact, I was blessed with the same ability to talk. But did you notice a change in the client response with the equation? Like, what sort of things did you see them start to do or stop doing when you started with this?
I think the biggest change for me was to hone in on the concerns.
Right.
Quite honestly, that's the big thing. So, and going away from the wider VetX, but when I'm in a consult and someone is concerned about something and I can see that, whether it's the words they're choosing or the way their body language is or whatever reasons they're giving, being able to hone in on what's the actual concern, and addressing that rather than talking at them about how bad the condition is or look how bad these teeth are or whatever, because that's not what people care about.
Unspoken things. Snowball effects, in terms of like, when I see vets in practice struggling, the pain starts with, I always like, it's almost like a ball rolling down the stairs or the slinky spring that goes down the stairs. The one thing, there's a cascade of negative sort of happens whereby I don't communicate really that well with clients, so they tend to get resistant to my recommendations. Boom, there's one of the stairs. Next one is, so they're saying no. So boom, now I feel bad about my life because I don't feel like I'm not self-actualizing. I'm not feeling like I'm able to do the job I'm here to do. And then, you've not got that much case volume. There's another thing. So you're not generating much revenue. And maybe more importantly, you're not generating the volume of cases to get better. So there's that sort of cascade of bad things
and
happening.
Suddenly you're a bad vet who can't spay a dog or can't,
Right.
tackle those big challenging cases.
Right. Did you see a negative, a reverse cascade of positive? And maybe this is a useful point to bring in what you're doing now, because when you started out in VetX, you were employed, and now you've made the amazing decision to being your own boss and have your own practice.
Amazing or foolish? I haven't quite decided. But
no, I think it's. I think for the right people, it's a great decision. So I was delighted to hear when you decided to do that. Has there been a positive cascading effect from what you did in VetX?
I think part of it is practicing in the right framework and being able to set goals and say, okay, I've achieved that goal. What's next?
Yeah, right.
And if you don't achieve the small goals, you'll never achieve the big goals. I think is a big thing. But then also, like I said, the two things that I found I got the most value from was the goals, and also mentoring.
Cool.
And so being able to mull things over and have a supportive network is the big thing,
Yeah.
So you can jump from as high as you want as long as you got the support, And so that was the big thing.
Awesome. And when you set your goals, did you have the goal of opening your own practice, or was that something in your mind you thought about doing, or did you make that goal in VetX?
I'd always had that as a goal.
Yeah.
To take a leadership role. I mean, I've had a little book since I was, graduated of things I'm going to do when I own my own practice.
We've all got to have a bit.
A little bit like that. So yeah, I think it was something that I had. It wasn't on my timeline.
Yep.
But when the opportunity presented itself, then I was equipped to take that opportunity.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm so stoked for you having that success. Any other outcomes? Anything else? I mean, really, I guess the question here is this something that you would recommend other people have a go at? And, who do you think that would get the most value out of this, Zach?
I think that some of the best outcomes out of it are, as much as, it's the peer relationship. So we see each other's wins, which is, I guess, it makes it really enjoyable when you're on a call and you see someone who's been struggling with doing spays and they can suddenly do them, or whatever it may be. Or you see someone, we had someone on the Facebook page say, hey, I convinced my boss to change this, or whatever it may be. I think that's pretty cool, and that gives me a lot of satisfaction out of it. I think the skills in it are important for everyone. I think everyone's going to find different things. There are some people I know, peers of mine, who have signed up and it's given them the confidence to, to start generating more revenue and then ask for a raise, or whether it's, tackle something or approach something a bit differently. It's the big value in it isn't so much in what you think you're getting out of it, but it's in that breadth of things that's included.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing. I mean, anyone who wants to, kick ass is going to have to find somewhere where they can have a community that's going to encourage them to do that.
Yeah.
And I think that, if you're interested in that, then it's worth a shot.
Who's it not for?
Who is it not for?
I'm curious about your answer to this one, because I have answered.
I think it's not for somebody who wants someone to solve their problems for them.
Yeah. Amen.
I think it's not for somebody who thinks that this will be the solution to all their problems and they'll sign up and then they'll get a $10,000 pay rise, a month in.
Right.
I think it's not for somebody who thinks that they know everything and they can just go in and cherry pick. I think you get the most value if you actually engage. And I think that you can speak to this. I mean, the people who have grown the most are the people who are engaged and talking to everyone and communicating and things like that. But I think really it's for people who want to move forward and want all the tools in one place.
Yeah, fantastic. So if you had your time again, you'd do it again? You'd invest?
Of course. I mean, my boss paid for it.
I'm not like, there's no thumb screws on any hands. There's my hands, but yeah.
You know this, Dave. I didn't pay for it, so of course I'd do it again. But if I had to, I would have.
I think actually I should ask Mike that question. Really, shouldn't I?
I think you might say no because I left.
Now you opened up your own practice. Maybe he's not so happy about that.
No, but I've got another associate who signed up at the same time as me and in the same clinic, and I think that she'd say the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, I think she's gotten heaps out of it. So
yeah, brilliant. Well, it's my pleasure to have you guys in here, and it's a pleasure to share the information, but the biggest pleasure is seeing the impact that has for you. So I know that a lot of your success is down to you and not VetX at all. But it's brilliant to just have been a tiny little grain of sand in that journey for you. So I appreciate you being a part of the community, and I appreciate you coming on the call.
No worries. Thanks, Dave.
Cheers, mate.